You're good.
Good morning. This is Kelley Hobart from Alpaca Direct, and it's so nice to have all of you with me today. And today I'm going to be talking about how to get a little more stretch out of your bind-offs. And so when I was working and looking and kind of researching this topic, I came up with some ideas. The first thing that I was thinking of is, okay, how can we get stretch when we're knitting, right? And we can do that by doing a couple of things. Number one might be that we increase our needle size, make the needle size larger so each bound off stitch is a little bigger, thereby giving you a little more stretch. Now the second way I was thinking is give yourself extra stitches to bind off so that you can bind off with more stitches, and that will also give you a little more stretch. And then of course we know that there are different techniques that we can use, and two of them that I'm going to be talking about this week is Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, and then the simple elastic bind off from Very Pink Knit. So I'm going to be talking about those actual techniques, and I'll show you the samples, and we can take a look at them together, and you can decide which one you might think that you might want to use. And as we're going along, if you like what we're talking about, or you can, please go ahead and share with others so we can reach as many people as possible. I love learning and I love helping other people learn. And that's one of the big reasons why I'm here today. So, and as we're going along, we also like to hear from where you're texting or replying to us from, and that is also fantastic, and maybe some projects that you're working on and photos and all that. So you go ahead and share that with your friends, and then we can all learn together. So the first thing that I'm going to be talking about today, was there a question?
You have a few people joining, so Debbie Doctor says hi.
Oh, good morning, Debbie. It's so nice having you with me. That's great. I've had a great week of knitting. I actually mostly knitting and then taking it out, and then knitting again and then taking it out. But that's, for me, is called free practice, because I don't have to repurchase more yarn, and I get to use it again, and I only use lovely yarn, so I don't mind using it twice. So that is awesome.
Marilyn's from West Virginia, it looks like. She says hi
Marilyn, good morning. Good morning, Marilyn. Nice to have you with us from West Virginia. It's kind of nippy outside here, and I expect we will be getting some snow on Friday, so I'm looking forward to that, because then the more snow that we have, the colder it is, and the more I can wear my alpaca knitwear, merino, whatever it is that I've knit and I want to wear. I can wear it because it'll be cool enough. So anyway, all right. So this last week, first of all, before I get into my tangent about my swatches, I did all these wonderful swatches that are showing different techniques that I tried, and then I have this little cutting board here, and I was going to take it off and just see what kind of stretch that we have as we go along, so you can make up your mind for yourself what you would like to try and what you would like to use, and maybe you'll just get some different ideas, and it'll give you another tool that you can stick in your toolbox to make your knitting just a little bit easier, and have your products that are knit turn out more beautiful, and which is always really nice. Okay, so this last week I have been working on this Norland hat by Sarah Birch, and it was on the top 20 in Ravelry, and that's how I saw it. And it is right here. What it has is trees, and it comes with the pattern comes with mittens, and that's what the chart looks like. So the first thing I did, I always tell you when I'm working on my patterns, right? You find a pattern that you like, and then you go to the reviews from other people who have actually knit the pattern. So this pattern is a beautiful pattern, but a lot of people have found that it runs a little bit small. So I have been trying to figure out how to get it a little more roomy so it'll fit on my head. I don't want a hat on my head that is really tight. That's not enjoyable to me. So I have been working on it, and I'm using this Royal Alpaca, and I'm actually using a DK weight, and it is from Classic Alpaca Tweed. Remember how I said I love having alpaca on my head? So normally I don't knit with anything except for alpaca for my head, because I prefer to wear it. It keeps my head warmer, and it's so light that I don't even feel like I'm wearing a hat. and I love that feature about Alpaca. Now, what I did on this is I'm going along and I'm putting it on, I'm making the trim around the edge. See how it's double-sided? Again, it's the 1898 hat, only this time done in stockinette. And it gave me that nice rolled edge because I wanted to make my brim a little more substantial. This right here is, this brim right here is so, to me, it is, the top of it is so beautiful. It's so understated that I wanted mine to stand out a little more and actually be a little bit thicker before I get into the color work. So I'll let you know as I'm going along how I'm doing with that. Also, a couple things to think of that I learned this week from doing this actual project that I'm working on. And this is about color dominance. And you say, what is color dominance? And color dominance is what stands out when you look at your color work hat. So if I'm knitting this hat, and I didn't knit this hat, Colleen East knit it, and she's going to be doing a class here at Alpaca Direct. So if you look on our website, and you should be able to find it, and where would they look exactly?
In the events.
In the events
on
section.
Facebook, actually.
Okay, so it's an upcoming class from Colleen East, and she is a wonderful knitter, as well as she used to own her own yarn shop, and she is a fantastic teacher as well. So this is a hat that she's doing. So in my Norland piece that I did, the one of the ones that I tore out, I have this chart that I'm knitting off of, right? And the chart, see how there's a lot of brown? Mine would have a lot of dark brown and just a little bit of the white. So what I did is, I'm a continental knitter. I put the dark color in my left hand. Well, that is, my left hand is my dominant hand, which means when I was knitting along, the actual trees would recede into the background, and the background would actually come out and be more vivid, and it wasn't looking good. So I needed to break down and put the light color in my left hand, even though, so when I'm doing this chart, I'm having to knit the classic style, the throwing, and that for me is not as natural as doing the continental. So it will slow me down a little bit, but I'm going to do that so that I can get these beautiful trees to show up on the hat. And so I'll let you know as I'm going along how that is working. So again, if you are knitting a pattern such as this, and you want the pattern to actually stand out, and you would take your yarn that would be like the lime green, the tan color, those would be in your left hand. So those colors would come from underneath, and that's what makes the actual pattern stand out, is that the yarn is coming from underneath. That's the dominant side. So I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was such a neat thing for me to work on, and I'm always improving every day. And I've heard that many times, but I never actually saw the example until, or really thought about it in great depth until I was working on this hat. And I'm going, what is wrong? It's driving me crazy. So I just switched the colors of yarn, put the light color in my left hand, and we will be happy. So now I'm going back to how can I get a little stretch out of my bind-offs and have them still look fantastic. So this first sample that I'm going to be showing is a standard bind-off on the wrong side of your work, and I'll show you what I mean. I left my tail so you'll know that this is the top. See, I bound off from the back. Do you see the back, the knit stitches on the back there? Okay, to me that doesn't look attractive, so I never put that on the front of my work. I always put this on the back, especially when I'm doing garter stitch, because I feel like it works better. So this was my standard sample with the just a regular standard bind off, okay? And that is, it's not super stretchy, but it's okay, it's not bad, okay? Now the next sample I'm going to be talking about is a standard bind off where I added 3 stitches as I'm binding off using a make one left. Okay, here it is. I added 3 stitches. Do you see how that is stretchier? Let's see if we compare these two. This one gives me about 8 inches. And let's see what this one gives me. Oh, that gives me quite a bit more. And I just by adding 3 stitches, I got 9.5, an inch and a half wider on the bind off. So that is really good. And you can see that it looks pretty good. Okay, so that's what I did with that one. I just added a couple of stitches by make one left, just to give me a little extra, you know, volume in there so that I can get my bind off to be stretchier. Now this next one is, I'm playing around with needle size. So I cast on with number 11. So the cast on is down here at the bottom. Then I knit my stockinette with number 10s. And then I bound off with number 11s. Okay, so if you look at that, so let's see if the cast on and the bind off match each other. It's interesting to see. So that's about 8.5 inches. Yeah, they look pretty close. Even when you look at them, Jim, can you zoom in on this? Even when you look at it, it looks pretty close. It doesn't look funny pulled in on either side there. And that's just using 1 needle size larger for your cast on and bind off. And it looks pretty even. See, when I'm doing a shawl and I want my cast on edge and my bind off edges to look, or a baby blanket where I'm casting on and then on the other end I'm going to be binding off. I want them to look really close. I want them to not have it obvious where I bound off and have it awkward looking, you know. I would like it to have it be the best that it can be. So this next sample I'm showing is cast on with number 13s, then I knit with number 10s, then I bound off with the larger needle as well. Okay, let me get this off here. So, and this is in 2x2 rib, and this is bound off in pattern, of course. So it looks pretty good. So again, using a larger size needle, and this time this one was 2 sizes larger of a needle. And if you look at the top, it looks pretty good. And you look at the bottom, still looks pretty good. You got nice stretch on both top and bottom. So that's using 2 needle sizes up. Now if you look at it like this, do you see how the cast on edge is sucked in compared to the bind off edge? That's interesting to me.
And why is that?
Well, when you're casting on, let me just show you. Say I'm casting on, I cast on with all of these using the long tail cast on method. You're going like this and casting on your stitches, right? But when you're binding off, you're actually knitting a stitch. See, so you're knitting that stitch. So you're manipulating the yarn differently. So that means that you could get different results because you're actually manipulating the yarn differently with each, with your cast on and then your bind off. So those are 2 different things that I just did. And so that it would make sense that you would have a different tension with each of them. So it's always just something to look at and something to keep in mind, okay? So I'll put this one back on here. And then the next one's going to be, we're casting on with number 11s, we knit with 10s, and then we bound off with a simple and stretchy bind off. This is the one that I'm talking about that is from Very Pink Knits, okay? And this one uses where you would knit a stitch and then you knit 2 together through the back loop, okay? And then you might purl a stitch and then you would purl 2 together through the front loop. And this one is a super stretchy bind off, okay? It's very, very stretchy. So if you had it on your sleeves, it would almost give you a bell shape to your sleeve. Do you see that? It would give you a bell shape to your sleeve. So if you like that look, it's fantastic. I think there are some times when having this much, I mean, it has a lot of stretch on it, but do you see how your work just splays out there? So that might be great for some things, and other things that might not be as great. So it's just, you know, deciding what you're going to use it for and how to use it effectively. And instead of having it turn out to be something that that is unattractive because you used it for the wrong application. So really think about what situations you might use that for. So as we're going along, don't forget to share with your friends, because we want to reach as many people as possible. And please push that like button if you like what you're seeing, so that I know, and then I will make sure that I gear my topics and the research that I'm doing towards projects and things that you're interested in. Okay, so this next one that I'm going to be looking at is a cast on with the number 13. I knit it with 10s, and then I bound off with 13. This one is very similar to the one, this one up here, but it's in stockinette stitch. Now let's take a look at it and see what it was like. So if you look at this one, it's pretty stretchy. Let's put it on that. Okay, so if we put it on here, we have, it looks pretty straight, and the inches across are pretty even. But let me just go ahead and stretch this. So you got another almost 2 inches out of it of stretch. So just using a needle 2 sizes larger will give you about 2 inches of stretch on a project that was like this, maybe on a baby sleeve. That's pretty nice. Without doing anything extra, just using a needle that's 2 sizes larger. I mean, how simple is that? That's a wonderful way to get increased stretch and do it very quickly, and you know, not stress yourself out in any way.
Leanna says that would be great for socks.
Yes,
Or the other one, I guess.
Oh, this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. It does, except for I've seen this, the super simple and stretchy bind off on projects, and when I'm looking at my socks and they're not on my feet, I still want them to look beautiful. And if they're so splayed out and it looks like I screwed up on my bind off because it is so splayed out, I guess it's okay if you need to make sure that you have absolutely nothing snug around your ankle or what have you. But I'd prefer if it had a lot of stretch as well as uniformity to it, so that it looked beautiful, okay? So, but it's all, you know, you guys just take these tools that I'm giving you and use them as you will, and use what you can use and leave the rest. That's what I suggest. So as for this next one's going to be casting on with 11s, knit with 10s, and bound off using Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. This is where you're using yarn overs and reverse yarn overs to make your bind off. And this one is a fantastic bind off. It is one of my very favorites. I use it all the time. Just know that when you're making this bind off, it makes a double thick edge to it, okay? And it is actually really pretty. And you can do it in the pattern that you're knitting, so in the ribbing pattern. So if we put this on here, so we have that, and then watch. Let's see how much stretch we can get out of it. That is a lot of stretch. I'm telling you, I like this one way better than I like that, the simple and stretchy bind off, because look how much stretch you got out of it, and it still looks pretty at the top. That one's really nice. And see, it went almost back to straight. And do you see how it looks structured and uniform and beautiful? Where if you take this one, which is that simple stretchy bind off, now let me pretend that this is a sleeve on a sweater, right? Well, if you wanted to create a bell, if you wanted to create a bell sleeve, it's a great way to do it in ribbing. You know, it would be in the round usually. But see how this one has no bell on it, but you get incredible stretch, and this one has a bell on it, and you also get stretch. Let me see, compare them together. Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, well, they're very close to the same. I was going to say the Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off is a little bit more stretch even than this one. Even though this is belled out, this one has a tremendous amount of stretch. So it is a good choice for many, many, many applications, because it'll look beautiful and uniform. So I really like that.
Ann wants to know where you got your measuring board.
Well, where did I get? You know, way back when I was first starting to knit, I didn't know about where to get stuff, right? So I happened to be walking through Costco, I think it was, in the springtime, and they have these little tiles that you can buy at Costco. And so, and what I like about them is they're really big, and it was like $15 for a big bag of them. And I think I have either 6 or 8 in the thing, so I could make this huge big thing with it. And so I don't know, that's really cost effective for me. I'm always about, not wasting and all that. And then what are you talking about?
They want to know where you got that.
Oh, this one. I just Googled it. I wanted a certain brand because I wanted the ones that you can find at kids' schools. And you just Google it online and it'll tell you. I imagine you can probably get it on Amazon. I'm sure you can get anything at Amazon. Okay, so on with our experiments here. We're talking about a cast on with number 11s, 20 stitches in stockinette, and number 10s. And this is this sample right here. This one right here is doing the Jenny Surprisingly Stretchy bind off in 1x1 ribbing. We had one of our VIP Facebook, it was our VIP group through Alpaca Direct, and she was talking about bind offs to use on 1x1 ribbing. So I thought I would show her that. And I thought that looks really, really cute, and it's got a lot of stretch to it. So you could do that. You could even do Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy bind off and do it with one needle size larger and even get more stretch out of it if you needed to. I mean, that's a thought. There's so many things that you can do. You don't have to just try different things and see what works. But definitely jumping up a needle size or two is fantastic. The only thing I wanted to say about jumping up in needle sizes is like this one right here. I cast on with number 13s and I bound off with number 13s. But the cast on is very sloppy looking. I don't like casting on with 2 sizes needle larger. Do you see how sloppy that is? It's like you have extra yarn at the bottom here. Very sloppy looking. And so I didn't like the idea of casting on with a needle that is too many sizes. 1 needle size is good, 2 needle sizes was not good on this sample. So anyway, at least that's what I found. And this last sample, what I did is it was cast on with 11s, knit with 10s, and then I increased 4 stitches across evenly while I was doing my ribbing. And what that does for you, you see how my sample is kind of square? It's not sucked in. You know how ribbing normally pulls things in, right? Ribbing normally pulls everything in. But if you add a few stitches to it, say this were a cuff of a fingerless mitten, do you see how you would have a lot more room at the top and it would work great. So a lot of times when I do fingerless mitts, I will add 4 stitches evenly across as I'm doing my ribbing on top so that it doesn't suck in like that, and it still looks beautiful. The thing about this is, well, if you look at it unstretched, now I kind of stretched it a little bit. So right here is where it's stretched, and then if I pull it out, there you go. You got about 1.5 inches extra of stretch just by adding those 4 stitches to it. And you really can't see where the stitches were added. I don't know. I've used it many times, that little technique of adding stitches before I bind off. And I'll show you. I used it here on my match play. I did knit 5 knit front and back. I mean, I increased lots of stitches before I did my I-cord bind off. And if you look at it,
Debbie Doctor says she likes the I-cord bind off, by the way.
Yeah, I did, but see how it's really stretchy? It's not too tight. I did knit 5 knit front and back, and then did a few more rounds in garter, and then bound off. And it looks really, really good. It looks really clean, and it's not too tight around your neck at all. It lays really nice and flat. So it's food for thought when you're doing. This is a match play poncho by Michelle Hunter, if you haven't seen this one before, and it's using the yarn called Sueno, which is a wool bamboo blend, and it's fantastic. I love this yarn. This is what it looks like when it came out of the dryer. Super, super soft, no itch whatsoever. I think this is one of those yarns that's a little bit more expensive, but it's worth every single penny. If I'm going to spend my time knitting, I want to make sure that I use the best product possible, because guess what? My time is valuable. So, and I have limited time of it. So I want to make sure that whatever I'm making is the best that it can possibly be. Plus, I don't know, that way I'm kind of picky about my stuff. I want it to look nice. I want to be proud of it. And so I'm always trying to figure out how to make things a little better and all that. So, does anyone have any questions while we're going along? If you do, let me know, because I'd be happy to answer them for you right now. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer.
There's a question that says, I missed it. Did you use an I-cord bind-off on match play?
Yes, I did. I did an I-cord bind-off, and what I did to make my I-cord, because you know that when you bind off with I-cord, it can get tight. It doesn't have, the I-cord doesn't have a whole lot of stretch to it. So what I did is, because I was doing garter, I did knit 5, knit front and back, or knit 6, knit front and back. I added a whole bunch of stitches as I was going around. And then I did like 2 more rounds of my garter, and then I went ahead and bound off using the I-cord bind off. And my I-cord bind off is fantastic. It is not tight at all. It is, see how it just pulls out? It's actually looks really nice, and that's how I did it. I increased some stitches and then I bound off. That way I didn't have to fight it, because here's what I found. If I try to bind off using a larger needle with I-cord, it very quickly can get sloppy looking, and we don't want a sloppy I-cord. We want it to look beautiful and smooth. So the way I did that was add stitches. So one of my little tricks that I just came up with. So I'm trying to think, the winner for last week, I forgot to tell you guys, I am so sorry. Goodness gracious. The winner is Gaydell Montgomery Trumbley, and you have won this tape measure, and this is a little Boston Terrier. What it is it's the mascot for Ravelry. That's their mascot, is a Boston Terrier. And so I thought that was a really cute tape measure that you can keep in your little notions bag. So that was the winning the thing that you won this week. Now the prize for this week is Blue Sky Royal Alpacas. I don't know if you guys were able to take advantage of this fantastic sale that we had, but these petites were on sale for 50% off, and this is Royal Alpaca, which is an even higher quality of alpaca, lower micron count than the normal baby alpaca. And this was on sale for like $7. So if you watch our Facebook Live, or you
Emails.
look at the VIP group, or you sign up for our mailing list, you will get these little notifications when we get these special sales going, because we look for our vendors and ask them what they might have that is good product, and we try not to bring any product that we don't know and that we don't fully appreciate, because we want to bring only the best stuff in, and this is the very best. And this was Royal Alpaca in the fingering weight in the larger skein of it, and that was on sale as well. Okay, so one second, I forgot to tell you how you win this prize, right? This is the Royal Alpaca Petites, and the way that you win, or you get entered to win, is you go to the comment section. Let us know what you're working on. Post your pictures. Tell us what the name of the patterns are and anything that you want to tell us, and you'll be entered to win. Also, we want to learn from you too. I'm looking at your replies. I try to reply to as many of you as possible, and I get new ideas for Facebook Live, so you guys help me out. So that's so fantastic. And especially since there are so many of you out there that are so completely talented. I just love having friends who are such great knitters that are able to share with me too.
Marilyn says she's learned a lot from your Facebook Live videos.
Oh, thank you, Marilyn. I am so honored by that. Yes, I don't even pretend to know everything. Every day is a journey for me, and I'm always learning. I love learning new things. And so, when I do these little studies, I'm experimenting, and I'm checking to see what I like too. And so I get more tools for my toolbox. For as I'm going along, I can say, hey, I know what this does, and I know what that one does, so that I can be a little more informed, and my projects can be a little more polished. And I love that. So all of you out there, don't forget to push that like button as we're going along if you're enjoying what you're seeing, and share with others, because we want to reach as many people as possible, and share with them and encourage them to reach and push themselves maybe outside that box a little bit and try something new. Because it is really fun. I mean, knitting is just like a puzzle to me, and it is fantastic. It's just another medium or another way for me to learn something new. Now, I am going to, I wanted to remind you that next Tuesday, on the 27th, we're going to be talking about great ways to use our baby alpaca. So I will be spending a lot of time about that this week, doing research and dragging out some of the things that I love most that are made out of alpaca. And then I can share that with you, and maybe we'll talk about some characteristics of the alpaca and ways that you can work with it to get the best projects possible from our baby alpaca yarns and super baby. And maybe even I'll go into detail more about what it means when we say super fine baby, as opposed to baby, as opposed to super baby, as opposed to royal alpaca, and what those mean. So you guys who are not involved in the alpaca industry can have a little background information when you're choosing your yarns. Especially when you buy them online from Alpaca Direct. You'll know more about what you're looking at, so that you too can make informed decisions and buy the best product that you can for your money. So I think that is, can you think of anything else?
There's one more question. It says, have you tried a very stretchy cast on for double and single ribbing?
A very stretchy cast on.
For double and single ribbing.
I really am stuck on that old Norwegian cast on lately. Okay, it's sort of like knitting twisted stitches, but once you get through that first row or round, depending on what you're doing, that old Norwegian cast on is fantastic. And I found that the Icelandic bind off looks beautiful. They're like a perfect match, made in heaven, straight from God. So that is a thing for you to look at. Go ahead and look at that old Norwegian cast on. It's fantastic.
And we have videos for those too.
Yes, and we have videos for those as well. So you guys have a great week. I hope that you stay warm and safe, and that you're enjoying the holiday season free of the flu or any bug that's going around, because it seems like everyone's getting sick. My daughter Lauren, I talked to her yesterday. She's had the flu and she feels horrible. Lauren, if you're watching this, Mommy loves you. All right. We will talk to you all next week, where we will be talking about our wonderful alpaca. Take care now.